Should your accountant be running your payroll, or should you be handling it in-house with the payroll software? I get this question a lot from moving company owners, and the answer isn't super black and white, but we'll talk through it. As a general rule, most moving companies should start with payroll in-house and only graduate to an accountant-run payroll when complexity actually demands it. Payroll software has come a long way over the last 5 years, and today, most modern payroll systems can calculate wages and overtime correctly. They can handle payroll taxes, withholdings, and filings. They can file required automatic forms. They can track year-to-date wages and taxes, and they can generate clean reports. That's the bulk of payroll. For a majority of moving companies, payroll software now does everything that it needs to do for you to run your payroll properly, which means that most companies don't really need an accountant to physically process their payroll. Now, I want to let you in on a little secret that the accounting community holds a relatively tight grip on, which is when your accountant runs payroll, we're almost always using the same payroll software that you would be using yourself. We're not calculating payroll manually. We're not filing taxes by hand, or at least your accountant shouldn't be doing that. We're literally inputting new hire information. We're confirming the payroll is processed correctly. We're reviewing the filings that the software already generated, and we're answering questions when the issues come up. The software is really doing all the heavy lifting. The only difference is just who is operating it. For most moving companies, in-house payroll is really the right starting point. If you have a relatively straightforward payroll process, W-2 employees and contractors being run through that payroll software, consistent pay structures, an administrator on staff to actually input the hours, then running payroll internally using a modern payroll platform is usually efficient, accurate, and pretty cost-effective. In these cases, payroll becomes a pretty repeatable administrative task, not really an accounting function. And when payroll mistakes happen, whether an accountant or an on-staff administrator is running payroll, they usually come from incorrect time entries, wrong payroll rates, misclassified employees, or just an improper setup decision, not really necessarily the payroll software itself. So having an accountant run payroll doesn't really eliminate that risk. It just shifts who typed the information in, right? The quality of payroll still depends on the quality of the inputs. Now, there are situations where it absolutely makes sense to have payroll overseen or run by an accounting team. And here are the most common ones. If confidentiality of wages is important to you, then having an accountant run your payroll is a great way to keep all that confidential information outside of your organization. All the wages, your draws, your company benefits, all of that can be completely confidential from inside your organization when a third-party accountant has control of that entire payroll. And in that case, the value isn't really technical, it's more of a structured control. It may be beneficial to have an accountant run your payroll when there's a high degree of complexity in your payroll. Some moving companies have multiple pay structures for employees, depending on what they're doing, or frequent wage changes, or advanced labor allocations, or reporting needs that exceed what the off-the-shelf payroll software can easily handle. So when payroll feeds directly into complex financial reporting, then having an accountant involved can really ensure consistency and it ensures accuracy. Having an accountant run payroll can be incredibly useful and cost-effective when the admin team simply doesn't have the bandwidth to process the payroll on time. If there is no one internally who can reliably process payroll, then outsourcing payroll execution becomes a really practical necessity. And in that case, you're not paying for expertise, you're paying for the execution of the payroll run, right? For most companies with straightforward payroll, then I generally recommend using a modern payroll platform like Gusto. I have no affiliation with Gusto. It's just a really great software. We enjoy using it. In that setup, an internal administrator's processing payroll, the software handles all the filings and all the compliance, and your accountant or your tax preparer only steps in when questions or issues come up. And that structure keeps costs down while also maintaining really professional oversight. Accountants add the most value by designing payroll structures and allocations for operational and financial reporting on the front end, then ensuring payroll taxes are filed timely and correctly. They review compliance issues and handle notices and corrections. That's where they really can step in. So when complexity increases, an accountant can really reliably handle the increased complexity of the payroll without causing any unnecessary burden to the administrative team when handling the payroll. However, we really don't add the most value by just clicking run payroll every week. It's more on the back end of things, okay? Payroll today is less about calculation and more about the process design and the accountability. Most moving companies should start by running payroll in-house using modern payroll software, again like Gusto, and then as the business grows and the complexity increases, then graduate to an accountant-run payroll, because that can make a lot of sense only when there's a clear reason to do so. The key is choosing the structure that fits where your company is today.